The rain hammered against the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists, each drop carrying the weight of Marcus Thompson's exhaustion. His calloused hands gripped the steering wheel of his 10-year-old Honda Civic, knuckles white with tension as he navigated the slick streets of downtown Chicago. The dashboard clock glowed 11:47 p.m., and somewhere across the city, his 8-year-old daughter Lily was fast asleep, trusting that Daddy would come home safe, just like he always did. Marcus had been driving for Elite Transportation Services for 3 years now, ever since his wife Sarah lost her battle with cancer. The corporate gig paid better than taxi work, but it came with its own set of challenges. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Pick up some hotshot CEO from a business dinner, drop him off at his penthouse, collect the fare, and head home to the small apartment where Lily waited. Simple jobs were good jobs in Marcus's world. They meant no complications, no drama, just honest work for honest pay. But as he pulled up to the gleaming facade of Le Bernardin, Chicago's most exclusive restaurant, Marcus felt that familiar knot in his stomach. Rich people meant unpredictable people, and unpredictable people meant trouble he couldn't afford. Not when Lily's school fees were due next week, not when the rent was already 3 days late, and certainly not when his own pride was hanging by a thread thinner than the worn fabric of his uniform. The restaurant's golden light spilled onto the wet pavement as Marcus checked his phone. His passenger was Robert Chen, CEO of Chen Industries, one of the largest tech companies in the Midwest. The man was worth more money than Marcus could count, and tonight he was Marcus's responsibility. Marcus straightened his tie, took a deep breath, and stepped out into the rain. Inside the restaurant, the atmosphere was electric with the kind of energy that only came from million-dollar deals, and champagne that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Marcus spotted his passenger immediately, a tall, impeccably dressed Asian American man in his 50s, surrounded by a group of executives who hung on his every word. Robert Chen commanded the room with the quiet confidence of someone who had built an empire from nothing. "Mr. Chen," Marcus approached respectfully, his uniform still damp from the rain. "I'm Marcus from Elite Transportation. I'll be taking you home tonight." Robert looked up from his conversation, his sharp eyes taking in Marcus's appearance with a businessman's efficiency. "You're early. I appreciate punctuality." His voice carried a slight accent, polished smooth by years of boardroom negotiations. "Give me 5 minutes to wrap up here." Marcus nodded and stepped back, trying to blend into the background as the executives continued their animated discussion about market projections and quarterly earnings. He couldn't help but notice the ease with which they threw around numbers that represented more money than he'd seen in several lifetimes. For a moment, the familiar ache of inadequacy crept up his chest, the same feeling that had haunted him since Sarah's death, when he'd realized that all his love and determination weren't enough to save her, weren't enough to give Lily the life she deserved. "All right, let's go," Robert said, shaking hands with his colleagues. As they walked toward the exit, Marcus held the door open, a gesture that earned him a small nod of acknowledgement. The ride started in comfortable silence. Robert settled into the back seat, immediately pulling out his phone to check emails. While Marcus navigated the late-night traffic with practiced ease, the city looked different at this hour, softer somehow, with the harsh edges of day smoothed away by darkness and rain. Street lights created golden pools on the wet asphalt, and the occasional late-night pedestrian hurried past like ghosts in the urban landscape. "You have children?" Robert asked suddenly, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the engine. Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror, surprised by the personal question. "Yes, sir. One daughter, Lily. She's 8. That's a good age. Old enough to have real conversations, young enough to still think you're a superhero." Robert's tone had softened, losing some of its corporate polish. "I have a daughter too, Emma. She's 15 now, thinks she knows everything about the world. They grow up fast," Marcus replied, feeling a small smile tug at his lips despite his exhaustion. "Sometimes I look at Lily and can't believe how much she's changed since her mom." He trailed off, not sure why he was sharing such personal information with a stranger. "Since her mom what?" Robert's voice was gentle, encouraging. "Since her mom passed away 3 years ago. Cancer." The words still felt like stones in Marcus's throat, heavy and sharp. "Lily was only 5. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough for her, you know? If I'm giving her what she needs." Robert was quiet for a long moment, his phone forgotten in his lap. "I'm sorry for your loss. That must have been incredibly difficult." "It was, still is, some days." Marcus turned onto Lakeshore Drive, the city skyline glittering like a constellation beside them. But Lily's strong, stronger than me. Probably she's got her mother's spirit and her father's determination, I'd bet. Robert leaned forward slightly. What does she want to be when she grows up? Marcus's smile was genuine now, lighting up his tired features. A doctor. She's wanted to be a doctor since she was 6 years old. Says she wants to help people feel better. Make sure no other kids lose their moms like she did. His voice caught slightly. She's already saving up her allowance for medical school. Has a little jar on her dresser labeled Doctor Fund. She's got about $37 in there. $37 toward medical school. Robert mused. That's a good start. What's her favorite subject in school? Science. She's obsessed with it. Always asking me questions I can't answer about how the human body works. Why certain medicines help people. That sort of thing. Marcus chuckled. Last week she asked me to explain how insulin works for diabetics. I had to look it up on YouTube. Smart girl. She gets that from both parents, I'm sure. Robert paused. Where does she go to school? Lincoln Elementary. It's not the best district, but the teachers are good. Mrs. Rodriguez, her teacher. She's been amazing. Really encourages Lily's curiosity. Marcus's expression darkened slightly. I've been trying to save up to move us to a better school district, but he shrugged, not wanting to burden this stranger with his financial struggles. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. Robert finished. I understand. When Emma was younger, before the company took off, my wife and I struggled to pay for her dance classes. She loved ballet, but the lessons were expensive. We ate ramen for weeks to afford them. Marcus found himself relaxing as they talked. There was something about Robert's manner, not condescending or pitying, just genuinely interested. It had been a long time since someone had asked Marcus about his dreams, his hopes for Lily's future. You know, Robert said as they pulled into the circular drive of his high-rise apartment building. I have a board meeting tomorrow with the Chicago Children's Hospital. We're discussing our annual charity initiatives. Your daughter sounds like exactly the kind of bright young mind we should be supporting. Marcus felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment. Oh, no sir. I wasn't trying to. I know you weren't. Robert's tone was firm but kind. That's exactly why I want to help. You weren't asking for anything, just talking about your daughter with the kind of love and pride that tells me she's being raised right. The building's doorman approached the car, but Robert waved him off. Marcus, I want to invite you and Lily to dinner tomorrow night. Nothing fancy, just a meal where I can meet this future doctor and hear more about her plans. Marcus's first instinct was to refuse. Pride had been his companion for so long. It felt strange to consider letting someone else into their small world, but something in Robert's eyes, a genuine warmth that reminded him of Sarah's compassion, made him hesitate. I don't know, sir. Lily's just a kid, and you're a busy man. I'm a busy man who remembers what it was like to worry about my daughter's future. Robert interrupted gently. Please, consider it a favor to me. I don't get many opportunities to meet young people who still believe they can change the world. The next evening, Marcus found himself standing outside Alinea, one of Chicago's most prestigious restaurants, holding Lily's hand as she stared up at the building with wide eyes. She was wearing her best dress, a simple blue cotton one that Sarah had bought her for Easter 2 years ago, and her hair was pulled back in careful pigtails. Daddy, are you sure we're supposed to eat here? Lily whispered, her voice full of awe. It looks like a palace. Mr. Chen invited us, sweetheart. He wants to meet you. Marcus straightened his tie nervously. He'd borrowed a suit from his neighbor, and while it didn't fit perfectly, it was the best he could do on short notice. Robert was waiting for them in the lobby, but he wasn't alone. A teenage girl with long black hair and intelligent eyes stood beside him, looking slightly bored but curious. Marcus, Lily, I'd like you to meet my daughter. Emma smiled politely and extended her hand to Lily. Nice to meet you, Lily. Dad told me you want to be a doctor. Lily's shyness evaporated instantly. I do. I want to help people get better. Do you know anything about medicine? A little. I'm taking AP biology this year. Emma's bored expression softened as she looked at the younger girl's enthusiasm. Maybe I can tell you about some of the things I've learned. As they were seated at the